Hi, good afternoon. Hi, welcome everybody.
Hey, Les.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm sans video right now.
Oh, that's okay. At least we
Different
know.
computer.
There, now you can say hi.
Hi, Les.
Hi. So far, we have 9 people here. We have Mike Tulang. Oh, Mahina just joined. And we have Ron, Mary, uh, Brian, Jen, Keith, Makaala, Mary, Robin, and Walter Billingsley. Welcome.
Keith, before we get started, thank you for yesterday.
Welcome. Glad we can get. Did it help?
Yeah, I haven't talked with her yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll be helpful to her. So thank you.
Hi, Robin. I like your hat.
Apparently, we didn't get the ball cap memo from the gentleman.
Nice to meet you, Mary. There's 3 of us. Way to write for fraternity, Bill.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Okay. We have 14 participants right now. We have, I believe we have a quorum, yeah. And I believe Onauna, let me just check, unmute everybody. Okay, Onauna, are you there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
hey, Les, I was just talking with her. She said she might have some problems logging into this soon.
Oh,
But she might
okay.
just call in.
I sent her the link, you know.
Oh, yes, I had problems also, so I had to go to the agenda and use that link, and then it worked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
So somehow that password didn't work for me.
yeah, because what I ended up doing was I ended up sending just the link itself without the password, and that should have given you instant access to it, to
Okay.
the meeting.
Yeah, hey, that link didn't work. It took you to a sign-in page.
Oh, it
Yeah.
did. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Oh.
when I typed in the password, it didn't work. The number.
Oh.
Yeah, like so I'm on phone because I'm still it's showing that it's connecting, but it's just not working for me.
Oh,
So
sorry.
This is Mary. I logged into my own account and used your meeting ID number and password and got in.
You got in. Okay, thanks.
Mary, is that your high school graduation picture we're seeing? What's going on here? I want to see the real you, Mary.
I'm eating a snack. I found it's gross to eat on Zoom. And no, that picture was taken last year, Smarty Pants.
Okay, Les, it's, I'm a little late. Are we still waiting for anybody? Since I can't see anybody, apologies.
No, no, that's okay. We have 15 people. We have a quorum, I believe, yeah. Oh,
Okay,
I don't know. There's some people, I guess, when we go through introductions, they can introduce themselves, yeah.
yes. So why don't we go ahead and convene the meeting? It's 1:05 p.m. My name's Onao Nathone. I'm chair of the council, and I apologize, folks, I'm having technical difficulties and can't, log on to the video call today. If we can, let's see, for council members, if we can go in order of your name as it appears on the left-hand side of the agenda, that might be the most organized way for introduction.
Okay, Vice Chair Mary Boucher, present. Hawaii Island.
Roy Abe, Oahu.
Makala Kamoana, Honolulu.
Director.
Kawaoka, Acting Director, OQC.
Robin K., Island of Lanai.
Ron Terry, Hilo.
Mike Delane, Island of Hawaii.
And Mahina Tudor, Oahu.
Okay, so we just make quorum with 9. Thank you. And, Mary, if you can see, can you maybe, whatever is the most organized way for our members of the public to introduce themselves? Well, actually, sorry, let's go to OEQC first, and then we'll go to members of the public.
Okay, Leslie Segundo from OEQC. Thank you.
Bill.
Thanks, Les.
Yeah, hi. This is Bill Cooper, Deputy AG.
Okay, hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Hello, guys.
Do we have Kathy Ho on as well?
She's having problems getting through the link too, so I just texted her how to do it through the agenda on the OEQC website. That's how I got in.
Okay, thank you.
I see Jen Ching and Brian B. and W. Billingsley.
Jen Ching, EOA, sorry, OAQC.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hello.
So, Jen, are you also 594-9237?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next was Brian B. Sorry, Brian, what's your last name?
Just a member of the public. Thanks.
Welcome.
And then W. Billingsley?
That's me. My name is Walter Billingsley. I'm with the City Department of Design and Construction. And that phone number, 594-9237, that's my voice connection by phone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Walter. Thanks for joining.
Mary,
is
that's
that
everybody I see present.
Okay, great. Thank you, folks. Les, so do we have minutes to approve for this meeting?
No, I haven't finished them yet, so still working on it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Les. Okay, Keith, I'll hand it over to you to give the OEQC Director's report.
Okay, thank you, Ananya. Well, since Kathy's not on the line, she may join us later, but I just wanted to offer her congratulations on her Agriculture and Environmental Committee approval and this full Senate approval.
Wonderful.
We can discuss what the situation is later when I get to Ledge. The ledge met about a week ago now. Budget was submitted to the Gov. The plan is for the ledge to reconvene June 15th, I understand, for about 2 weeks. At that time, the ledge and the Gov's office will look at the economic situation, whether it needs to be adjusted as far as the budget is concerned. We've already gone through several exercises departments have as far as cuts to our operational budget, as well as possible vacancies to be either eliminated or at least the budget from those vacancies swept. And that's the issue regarding appointed positions right now. We're looking into that as we speak as far as the director's position. So yes, even though she's been confirmed, it was about the same time that Ways and Means Committee in the Senate asked us to look at vacancies and which vacancies could be taken. So whether this particular position is included in that, that's what we're trying to find out now. And Kathy is aware of all this too. So as far as the consultant support for the annual report, I'll let the annual report committee go into it. But as far as the PO is concerned, we're trying to push that through. The total estimate came out a little less than 15,000. So we're trying to get that through the PO right now. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thanks, Keith. Any questions from council members? Any questions from members of the public? Okay, hearing none. Thanks, Keith, for that update. And yeah, we can talk more about the annual report a little bit later in the agenda. And yes, will you let me know if and when Kathy does jump on, and we'll make sure to properly congratulate her.
Okay, certainly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks. Ron, I'll turn it over to you for the exemption committee update.
Okay, great. We met today at 12 o'clock, and the one action item on the agenda had to do with releasing for public review the list for the Honolulu Department of Design and Construction. And we had discussion in the committee about it and noted a couple things, but I don't think anything that needs to be brought up to environmental council level. But we're trying to get in the weeds with items on the agenda. The big picture was that we thought the list was very responsive to the basic idea to shift into part 1 and part 2. And we think it's ready to go for public release. And so our recommendation, which I believe, because it's a committee vote, is a motion, is to approve the Department of Design and Construction draft exemption list for public review in the next available OEQC environmental notice. At this point, I'd like to first ask Walter if there's anything he'd like to say about this. He's from DDC. Walter?
Yeah, hi, this is Walter. I don't really have anything to add from what Ron said. We worked pretty hard, and he was very helpful getting us, helping us, and actually Les helped as well. We had discussion with people there at OEQC as well as with Ron, and everybody provided good answers to our questions about how to do it and good suggestions about how to make it better. So I think this is the product of it. We think it complies with the intent of the new rules, and we hope the public will agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. I don't know if the committee members wanted to add anything to this. If so, go ahead. If not, I'll take Any questions from the council? Any questions from members of the public? Well, we can come back if there is something, but it sounds like we're good. I hope that some of you had an opportunity to read the list on the council, or at least peruse it a little bit. I believe that because I stated the committee finding, we have a motion on the floor awaiting a second, or do we need a second?
Ron, I don't. Yeah, no second.
No second. Okay.
I'll second it.
Don't need a second if it comes from the committee.
Ah, okay. I take my second back.
You should
Thanks,
take it back.
All right, folks. So all those in favor of publishing the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Design and Construction exemption list in the environmental notice for a public comment period, say aye. And if
Aye.
Mary, can you please let me know how many? Okay,
Aye.
sorry, one more time. Aye.
Looks unanimous.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. And you said it was unanimous, Mary?
Yes, I'd like to note that Tessie has joined the group.
Yay.
Okay, great. Hi, Tessie. Thank you for joining.
You're muted, baby.
Did
Unmute
Tessie
yourself, Tessie.
vote on that motion?
I'm sorry, Onana, could you repeat?
Oh, sorry. Did Tessie vote on the motion, or did she join after the vote?
She's
just wanna get
nodding, but she's muted. Tessie, unmute yourself. Lower left corner.
Aye.
Okay, there.
All right.
Okay. Hi, Tessie. Okay, so Tessie was included in the count for who voted.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, Ron. And Walter, thank you for joining and being present in case anybody had questions.
Oh, you.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to Robin for the Legislative Committee update.
Thank you. I don't really have much. I look to Keith, who knows what's going on at the Ledge much better than I do. I've just seen what I've seen in the papers and the arguments between the Ledge and the governor, and that's pretty much all I know. In terms of us, I haven't seen anything at all. So, Keith?
Yeah, other than what I said regarding the budget part, several of the committees, special committees have been having hearings. The House, particularly on the economic recovery aspect, and then the Senate special committee of the Senate was assembled to look at various aspects of the COVID response. And several departments have been called up. I think Department of Health has been called up over half a dozen times. And that is still ongoing. The other one is WHAM, and I think the Tourism Economic Development Committee have been meeting as well, on particularly the recovery aspects. So whether that will be generated in terms of specific legislation, a week or so from now, we'll see. But like I said, at least the budget has been submitted. It's probably going to be revised depending on the economic estimates that have been coming up, particularly from the Council of Revenues. So we're bracing for the next onslaught.
Thanks, Keith, and good luck to you folks in that, and thank you for all the work that the Department of Health is doing. I guess, I have a question, and then I'll also open it up to the rest of the council members and members of the public. Now hearing that Ledge is setting to reconvene June 15th or so for about 2 weeks, I think there are, five or so council members, if I'm not mistaken, that our terms are up. I think a few of us did put in applications for another term. But, if we essentially term out while Ledge is in session in June, are there going to be additional appointments or, I think if they're not in session, we could stay on as holdovers, but I'm not completely sure what the role is if the Ledge is in session. And maybe Bill or Keith can talk about that a little bit.
Or Les, can Les answer that question?
No, I actually did some research on it, and from what I see, if they don't address it, you have another legislative session for them to do it, and I don't think that'll be an impediment to you folks being holdovers.
Okay, even if the legislature is in session at the time?
Yes, because first of all, this is not a normal legislature. They're not handling anything that is pretty much not essential. And second of all, yeah, even if it was, if they don't address it, you still can be a holdover. I get that research. I believe I did send it to you.
Right. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with the council. Okay, that was my question.
But that doesn't mean, though, you guys shouldn't expedite getting your applications in. Go for it.
Right. Does anybody else have questions? Any other council members have questions on any of the legislative updates by Robin, Keith? Go ahead.
This is Mary. I think you should really get your applications in because they're going to be looking, they could be looking for things to feel like they've accomplished something. And approving governor's messages could be, it's a token in the right direction. So I think applications are important to have processed. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. All right. Anyone else? All right. Any questions from the members of the public? All right. Well, thank you, folks, for those updates. Okay. Moving on to the annual report committee update. Okay, we don't have Steph or Rob here today, so I can briefly give an update, and I'm going to ask Les and Keith to help out as well. Since our last meeting, the annual report committee has been working to get, a pretty good draft of the annual report ready, getting the text ready, and getting it somewhat in a mock-up form that we could provide to put it out to bid, essentially. As Keith reported earlier, we do have a bid, and I'll go ahead and let, Keith and Les give us a little bit more on that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we initially had 2 potential bidders, but we only have the 1 bidder now, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the one of the bidders didn't fulfill the compliance part of the bidding requirements. So apparently was somebody that Scott knew, but she did work when Scott was in the private sector. So she was unaware of the compliance provision for the DAGs had. So she withdrew,
Okay, that's unfortunate. Okay, and how much again was the current bid?
I believe it was 13,000, somewhere around there.
Okay. 15. All right, and I think that's generally in line with what we had budgeted for the annual report in our proposal. I think we had either 15 or 17,000. Robin, do you recall?
It was either 15 or 17. You're right. So I think we're right in the ballpark there. So that's great.
Okay.
Oh, I was
great.
just notified that it's $13,802.
802. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the timeline that, if we go ahead and approve, well, one, do you need council approval for that, or is this something that's administratively handled through OEQC and Department of Health? And if, once that gets approved, what's our timeline look like for a final report?
I believe it's the end of June that this report should be completed. Yeah.
Okay, that's reasonable. And from us, do you need a council vote on that, or is this something that we can just basically say, okay, go ahead? I mean, maybe we just do a vote to be safe.
I'm not sure maybe Jen might know. No council vote is needed.
Okay.
Madam Chair, what, I'm not sure, Kathy Ho has joined us.
Okay. Welcome, Kathy.
Hi, thank you. I finally got in, thanks.
Okay.
Except that
I'm
you're
gonna-
sideways, Kathy. Turn your picture right side up, please.
Okay, like this? Is
That's
that good?
perfect.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Kathy, we're gonna come back to you. Let us just finish up the annual report. So, okay, so no vote is needed, which is good. So we can just continue to move forward to finish up the annual report. Is that correct?
That's correct. I guess we take the Word file, send it to the bidder, successful bidder, and they're supposed to be meeting with us, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, if we can just continue to move that process forward, and thank you very much to Les and to
We
the
would
OEQC.
need to probably set up a virtual meeting, Onauna, with probably you and Rob and I guess myself and possibly Keith too. We'll try to do that after this meeting. Arrange it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Any council members have questions on the current status of the annual report and process moving forward?
I do. This is Robin. I'm a little confused. Keith, the funding that we're going to spend has been approved, or it's still pending?
That's the question. I think we're trying to push the paperwork as far as it'll go. The legislature has been looking at unspent or leftover general funds from this fiscal year. Even though this is not a big amount, I mean, I think we have more than that to cover it. But if Jen, you can provide more insight on that, if you're aware of the latest situation with that.
As far as the PO is concerned, I'm still waiting for director's approval, which I just got. So we'll be submitting the PO for encumbrance today. And then from there, we'll have to see how long ASO takes to get it approved.
Is it going through the standard process, which I would assume would take months? Or Keith, did you at one point mention there was some shorter time period alternative for doing this?
No, I don't think there's a shorter time period. It just got to go through the standard process of encumbering funds through a PO. And then from there, I think once the annual report is done, then they can submit an invoice and then we can just pay them out. But that could take,
assuming it's
take a
approved.
few weeks after.
Yeah, I think at one time, Robin, we might have stated that we weren't really sure how much this effort was going to cost. So we were thinking of going on HiPro, but we didn't go on HiPro, right, Jen, on this?
No, we just did it through a SBO 10 as a small purchase order.
Okay.
Yeah, which is even faster, actually.
Correct.
So
And
is there any,
safer.
I guess all of my, sorry to take up so much time on that. I guess my concern is if this person is expecting to do this by the end of June, what if the PO is rejected? What if they say there is no $13,000 or $15,000? Where does that leave us with the person who's undertaken this project and theoretically completed it by the end of June?
Well, then we would have to use fiscal year 21 funds.
But how do we know we're going to have it?
This is Mary. This may not be a very popular comment, but I won't sleep at night if I don't make it. Given the shortage of funds in our state at this time, do we really need to publish this annual report? Would it not be appropriate for it to be our contribution to the pain being experienced, and to say, sans the report? We know the legislators don't read it anyway.
I disagree with that, Mary, because it's required.
Yeah, it's required by statute.
We have
So
to do it.
what? Yeah, lots of things are.
Yeah, no, I think we're on the right path here. I guess my only concern, the only reason I bring this up is if the funds are not approved and this person has already done the work, where does that leave them but if you tell me not to worry about it, I won't worry about it.
Yeah, I think at this stage, like Jen said, once we get the PO approved and get the money encumbered, it's a go.
Okay. Well, you guys know the system, so I'm with you. That's it, Onana. That was my question.
Thank you, Robin. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Council members or members of the public?
No, except this is Makala. I do think that the way this one has been formatted and put together, this is a bit of a cheerleading for the agencies, and it's an attaboy, and it's credit they don't often get for doing good stuff. And of all times, I think they can use that right now.
Thank you, Maka'ala. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Roy. I was wondering, because of the COVID-19, whether there should be some introductory comment in the cover letter or the introduction, because a lot of the material was pre-COVID, and it was like, we're asking for more staff and funding for environmental programs, and now things have changed. So I'll say we should make it clear that this was written prior to the pandemic.
No, that's a good point. And I know Steph did draft up a paragraph kind of bringing us up to COVID, so we can work on some additional language to insert. Roy, if you want to take a crack at it, and then we can kind of circulate that and just work on something that might work, and maybe take a look at the paragraph that Steph did.
Yeah, maybe it could be part of your chair's address in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, something simple would be fine, but I think it's important to have the context behind what we're saying in the report, which is we need more staff and funding, which is counter to what the situation is now, where we don't have that.
Right, understood.
No,
Yeah, so maybe go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did Scott ever put in his piece? The last time I looked at it, there was just a blank spot for previous director's message. Has he ever had a chance to write it and submit it for us?
No, we haven't received it, and I know Rob was chasing that down with Scott a lot. I'll try reaching out to him, but I think we'll push him as much as we can, given that everybody has a really full plate right now.
Okay.
But it may be that we just don't have it. Mm-hmm.
All right.
But thank you for the reminder. Okay. All right. Anything else on the annual report? All right. I don't think INO met today, but INO committee, was there anything that you folks wanted to update us on?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. And thanks again to OEQC and DOH for, really helping us get the bid, the proposal together, and, helping us to move this process forward. Okay, before moving on to agenda item number 8, I want to come back to the director's report. And Kathy, he did report that you were officially confirmed, so congratulations.
Hey.
Thank you.
All right, and is there, we understand there's some, logistics going on right now, but is there anything else you wanted to share with the group?
Can you hear
if
me?
You don't.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay. I actually don't know anything more than what maybe Keith has reported. So I'm sort of in the wings waiting.
Okay.
But thank you everybody for your support.
Chair, did they ask you anything specific, Kathy?
They meaning the
committee.
Environment Committee? Okay.
Yes.
So the Environment Committee asked me 2 questions. I can't remember what the questions were, but they were, not very difficult, but I mean, I think it was like, what is my vision? And so I just said simply that I would like to continue the good work of the Environmental Council and OEQC in getting the word out about the new rules to everyone to make that process a little easier. And other than that, it was only two of the committee members actually attended the hearing. And then they met the next day or 2 days later to vote on my nomination. And so I got out of that committee unanimously, and then went to full Senate, and that was unanimously voted on as well. So I think Senator Favela was not there, was excused from the Environment Committee, the Ag Committee.
All right. Well, congratulations again, and
thank you.
All right.
So Kathy, this is Bill Cooper, your fellow DAG. Can you tell us the status now? Are you now the director, or are we waiting for you to get funded?
Maybe thanks for that question. I often ask myself that question myself. So if it's upon full Senate confirmation, I just don't know. I don't know the answer. Keith, do you have any input into that?
I was kind of vaguely telling the group that, this all happened during the other week when the legislature did convene for a short period of time, just a little over a week. And they managed to squeeze in, I don't know how many confirmation hearings, and then approve it by the whole Senate. And they also managed to put the whole budget together. So it just came at a critical point as far as the director's position is concerned, and that's what we're trying to find out right now, whether the position, when was Kathy confirmed? When did they come up with the vacancy list that they were going to try and eliminate? So it's a timing issue, but also whether the director's appointment is not included in the vacancy takings at this point. So that's how we're trying to sort out right now. But with the Gov's office and with the ledge. So it's sort of like limbo land right now, which Kathy has been in for quite a while.
Good, we get to keep Kathy then.
Oh no, Bill, that's the wrong attitude.
Oh.
In the meantime, you guys know where you can find me. I'll be sitting at my desk at the AG's office.
All right, well, please keep us posted on status. We're all eager to, have you join the team. Well, you're already part of the team, but to join it officially.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys all for your support. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, folks, now moving on to the more meaty part of the meeting. Our next agenda item is looking at the council's rules of practice and procedure. And, reflecting back, when we all came on, I think full time, it was in 2016, Scott had made us those nice packets of Chapter 343, Chapter 341, the old EIS rules, and I believe these procedure rules were here. We really focused over the last few years on looking at the EIS rules. And, when we got that declaratory petition, some months back, we were again reminded that we do have procedure rules for the Environmental Council. Because the EIS rules took up so much of our time, we really didn't look at, rulemaking and updating our procedure rules. But now that we're finishing up, we have already finished the EIS rules, and we are finishing up the annual report. Looking on to the next thing, aside from guidance, is probably a good idea to take a look at our procedural rules and see what needs updating. So And more recently, I'm sure you folks have probably followed the news. There has, BLNR last week or the week before last week, sometime within the last week and a half, actually rejected the EIS for the aquarium fisheries. So, there's always a chance that an applicant, if they want to contest the rejection of an EIS, they could appeal to the council. So now might be actually a really good time for us to just make sure that our procedures are in order in the event that, an appeal does come to us. And that was the reason for including this agenda item at today's meeting. Does anybody have any questions or comments before we move on?
Chair, this is Makala. Are you describing the potential of the aquarium applicants to appear before the AC as an appeal, a legitimate appeal?
I don't have any information that they're going.
We're not the ones that rejected it.
No, we're not the ones who rejected it. But if you folks recall, so HRS chapter or section 343(5) subsection E allows for the applicant of a rejected EIS to appeal to the Environmental Council. That's a statutory right they have. We do provide for it, and there's a section in the EIS rules. It was in the old rules. It's also in the new rules, and I believe that's subsection 29. And someone correct me if I'm wrong when we bring those up. But basically it says that, within 60 days of an EIS being rejected, the applicant can appeal to the Environmental Council. So again, I don't know that they're going to do that, but it's a possibility that it could come to the council, in which case, our procedure rules currently provide that any appeal is to be treated as a contested case hearing under HRS Chapter 91. And a contested case hearing, for those of you who don't know, it's an evidentiary hearing that it's rather involved. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware of, what our responsibilities would be. It's not, either the council can essentially hold the proceeding if it needed to. There's also the option of having a hearing officer. But again, this is all just, in the event something does come to us, we should be prepared. Does that answer your question, Makala?
Yes. I understand. That's a very involved process. So that would certainly be instructive and informative and interesting. But it also could be quite expensive, both in time and money.
Right. And, part of, I don't know if you folks recall, but when we were going through rulemaking and we were looking at that appeals provision, one of the things that was really difficult for us and that the council actually wanted to change was the time period in which we have to make a decision. So under 343(5)(e), once the appeal is filed, and now recall the applicant has 60 days from the time that the agency rejects their EIS to file an appeal with the council. Once the council gets that appeal, we only have 30 days to render a decision, and that's by statute. So that was something that we could not change via our rules. So, I think most people are generally familiar with contested cases nowadays and how involved they are, and to hold a contested case and issue a decision in 30 days is challenging, to say the least. But, that's what the statute essentially provides, and we can change that time period. So, in reviewing our rules, looking at we just have to be ready and see what we can do for that process. And, I don't expect anybody to, we're looking at this for the first time, right, as a council, really looking at this, and it's something I want people to kind of think about. And given the time period that we're in, my recommendation, or I suggest possibly that we create a permitted interaction group to look at this quicker, if anybody is so inclined to, want to be on the permitted interaction group, to do so. But that's only in the event that the council does, essentially approve redoing rulemaking. We don't have to. We can just leave our procedural rules as they are. And if anything comes our way, these are the rules and the process that we have in place. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Please chime in. It's a complicated issue. And I know we just went through rulemaking. Everybody knows how involved that is as well.
I agree with you, Onana. I think we need to do it. This is
Mhm.
Ron.
Aaron.
I read through the rules when, it came with the agenda, and they are what they are. I don't know enough to say if something needs to be changed or whatever. I just read them because I thought I was supposed to.
Yeah, hey, Bill, can you maybe, given everything that's going on with COVID, if we were to do rulemaking on the procedural rules right now, would that fall under any of the emergency proclamations where we could do emergency rulemaking, or would this actually be, just a normal rulemaking process?
Well, there's two ways to do emergency rulemaking. One is when we see the governor in his proclamations having issued emergency rules, and that is pursuant to HRS section 127A-25 subsection C. It gives him authority just to make rules and issue them during this proclamation, emergency proclamation period. Whereas Chapter 91, which is HRS Chapter 91, which is the normal rulemaking chapter, does allow for emergency rules as well. If you go to Chapter 91-3, subsection B, it does allow, if an agency finds that an imminent peril to the public health, safety, or morals to livestock and poultry or to natural resources requires adopting such an emergency rule, then you can do that with less than 30 days notice of the hearing, and also not even have the hearing itself. But it can only be effective, at the bottom part of subsection B here is, can only be effective for a period of not longer than 120 days without renewal. In other words, it's going to be a temporary emergency rule, which has to be addressed by the agency almost post haste, immediately, And we all know that it's pretty hard to get rules out anyway, and getting them out within 120 days is going to be problematic at best. But anyway, that's the way it goes. And chapter, actually section 91-4, the same chapter, subsection B, subsection 3, it just says that the emergency rule adopted pursuant to chapter 91, or section 91-3, will become effective once we file it with the office of the lieutenant governor, and shall be effective until no longer than the adjournment sine die of the next regular legislative session. So I'd argue the word in that is key is next. So in other words, the current one is not applicable, so we'd have a whole year to use that. But then again, this is a general statement, and I would say that the length of effectiveness of the rules would probably be more controlled by 91-3 subsection B. But we did talk about having a PIG, getting something together where we could have a smaller committee where we can discuss all this. And I would think that would be an excellent idea. I'm not sure whether an emergency rule would be applicable, and I did discuss and do research on the possibility of, if there is a request for an appeal in a contested case, then conceivably trying to get it done within the 30-day period. And that always is an option, but there wouldn't be an appointed hearings officer. Require that, first of all, we do it via Zoom, which is covered by the governor's proclamation. It would allow us to do that. And then second of all, it would require that the environmental council hear the appeal.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I guess what I'm hearing from you, though, is really for our particular situation, I defer to you again on this, on the law, but it kind of sounds like we wouldn't fall under the emergency rule, because I don't know if this can be interpreted for health, safety, or protection of natural resources, but possibly. That's something we'd have to look into. But if not, then we would just have to go through the normal rulemaking process, correct? If we wanted to change anything.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, you know, you could argue the opposite because this is a rule or EIS for people who go out and catch fish, that it would be the opposite, that instead of an imminent peril to natural resources, it's actually promoting the natural resources by not having the EIS. But anyway, yeah. The other issue is whether the harvesters or the aquarium industry, fishing industry, will want to appeal anyway. Because as a practical matter, the DLNR is basically helping them out, pointing out defects in their EIS. It'd be better for them and probably more effective and quicker for them to just take the recommendations of the DLNR and redo their EIS, and it'll make it much more stronger when obviously the environmental groups that are opposing the EIS take it to the circuit court. Yes.
I don't really want that EIS isn't before us. I don't really want to get into substantive discussions on that EIS. I just want to more so, I use it as an example of what could come our way, but I want to just more so focus on the rules, right? Because our procedural rules are applicable no matter what matters would come before the council.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. And not only that, but these rules were last issued in 1985, so they're more than due for a very thorough review and update by the council. I agree with that.
Okay. So Bill, you know, I like your suggestion. Maybe, you know, if we could, and I propose this to the council and let me know what the proper procedures for doing so is, you know, I had here on the agenda, first action to approve emergency rulemaking, and then second an action to form a permitted interaction group if the prior action was approved. But it sounds like maybe it's a better idea to just create the permitted interaction group and maybe have a smaller group, you know, kind of dig into this and see if additional rulemaking is even warranted right now. Does that, I open that up for discussion to council members for anybody who has questions or comments.
Well, I could just interject on a legal basis. That's actually a pretty pragmatic way to go.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who has questions or comments? Members of the public?
I think that's a good idea, particularly if you look at your new rules versus the procedural rules. There may appear to be some inconsistencies between the procedures in handling these hearings. So I think it's a great idea to do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so do I have a motion to form a permitted interaction group to, you know, look into, well, I guess on a procedural standpoint, Bill, looking at how we worded the agenda, is there any issue with creating the PIG to look at whether or not to do rulemaking, to just review the rules?
So move.
Okay, thank you, Makala.
I'll second it.
Second? Robin?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we need a further discussion on this? And I guess part of it would be, you know, who wants to be on the PIG? And do we need to, hey Bill, do we need to decide who the members of the PIG are in this motion, or is that separate?
Well, it would probably be best to get it done right away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so just a reminder for folks for the permitted interaction group, the maximum amount of people that we can have, we just cannot have quorum, which quorum for us right now, Les, correct me if I'm wrong, is 8 people, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it can be no more than 7 people. So are there any other people who really want to get into rulemaking and really interested in this?
I am very interested.
Okay, great. Maka'ala. Any other takers? I'll volunteer as well, of course.
This is something we have to do within the next 30 days?
No.
No, not necessarily, but just something we should start doing.
Oh, I thought Bill said we had to hurry up and do it.
That was if there's a hearing.
Oh, okay.
Oops, am I on? Can Kathy be part of this? Is she allowed to be part of the PIG?
Right. Even okay, go ahead.
I don't think so, Bill, right? But I can, as a public member, because this is a meeting of 2 or more council members, that I can, you have to publish your meetings, that I could go as a public person, right?
Right. And so the pig is it's not subject to sunshine. So,
Oh, it's
so
not.
we can have non-council members. Yeah, and so it gives us some flexibility in having, meetings, basically more meetings if we want to without having to worry about posting the agenda. So that's the nice flexibility of the pig.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just as an initial review, and of course, anything that, the pig, basically the process would be review the rules, come up with a recommendation on one, either to do rulemaking, and if the recommendation is to do rulemaking, to propose what revisions are warranted to the council, and then the full council would consider this. Or actually, maybe would bring it back to the rules committee first. The rules committee hasn't met in a while, so yeah, that would likely be the process. The PIG would make recommendations to the rules committee, which is subject to sunshine, would look at the PIG's recommendation and then make further recommendations to the council from there. Okay, so right now,
Kathy, what did okay mean?
Oh, I don't know. Bill, am I able to sit in on these meetings and
I don't
contribute
know.
in some way?
It's kind of ambiguous, so I mean, I would prefer if it was another council member.
Okay.
Well, when we had the PIG for the
I don't agree.
EIS rules, Scott was definitely on it.
Yeah, I don't agree, Bill.
Yeah, but Scott was not. Scott was ex officio part of the council.
I'm still a member of the public.
We can pull people in from the public on the PIG. There's no restriction there.
Yeah, we had public members as well. We had 2 or 3 maybe.
Bill, are you concerned about the status of Kathy being not quite so clear, or?
Yes, right now she's a member of the public. That's correct, but it's just.
But I'm also an AG.
Yeah.
I'm also
That's
an
the
AG.
part we want.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I can sit out and when you guys have your rule committee meeting, I can I can participate in that way if you guys want.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, and if Kathy is just a member of the public, I mean, so do we have to decide who all of the members, like public members of the PIG are now? We can just pull them, right? If we can just decide on who the council members, who will be on the PIG. Yeah, I would say if we can
come in as a member of the public.
Okay. I would ask for at least one more volunteer from the council who would be interested. Right now it's me and Maka'ala, just so we can have a few different viewpoints on this, and we'll work on, setting up a meeting within the next couple of weeks as a kickoff meeting, gives people some time to kind of read through the rules on their own.
As long as we're going to be doing this from a virtual perspective, I'll be glad to participate.
Okay, that's wonderful, Robin. Thank you.
What about Mahina?
Sorry.
Nothing.
Back. I had to get someone milk. Yeah, I'd also be happy to serve. Yeah.
Well, and then anybody else who may want to volunteer. Come on, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not necessarily helpful to have a big gang, but it is helpful to have enough on the council and then pull in the help that we need from the public.
Yep. Okay. Oh, I don't want to belabor it any longer. If there's anybody else who wants to volunteer from the council, please do. Thank you right now to Mahina, Maka'ala, and Robin for joining, and Kathy will probably try to pull you in as a member of the public later if needed. So that's the motion that we have right now, is to approve forming the permitted interaction group to review HAR 11-201, the council's rules of practice and procedure. And the PIG currently will consist of Mahina, Maka'ala, myself, and Robin. Maka'ala had made the motion, Robin had seconded. Are you folks okay with the amendments of the added members?
Yes.
Maka'ala?
Yes.
Is your motion? Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. So I will be in touch in setting up a meeting. If in the meantime the current PIG members can, review the rules on their own, and we'll set up a kickoff meeting sometimes within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, folks, so our next meeting is set for Tuesday, July 7th, 1 o'clock p.m. to 1:30. We'll be continuing to use Zoom until further notice. And lastly, we have public forum. Is there anything else anybody wanted to bring up? I'll just mention,
Can I
Sorry,
ask
go ahead.
something about the next meeting? Keith, do you have any sense, since the inter-island quarantine is going to be done June 16th?
16th.
Would we anticipate going back to regular meetings for July? I mean, maybe.
That's a good question. I mean, the quarantine, the 14-day quarantine will end on the 16th. Just so long you probably heard, they're going to do for departures, inter-island, thermal temperature checks, and you're going to have to fill out a form, a travel form, that basically gives your contact information as well as health-related information, like do you have a fever?
The travel form is available online. You can fill it out ahead of time.
At this point, hopefully things run smoothly, but we'll see at this point.
So the glitch is, it is going to take us longer if we, thank you, Mary. If you don't fill it out ahead of time online, you do wait till you get to the airport, then there's that, and then there's confirmation. You have to run a bit of a gauntlet of people checking to see where you're going, and if your information is accurate. They're also going to be vetting your name to make sure it's not on some other list of international travel, etc. But the other thought I had for future meetings when we do get together is we do have that big room that we used to meet in downstairs in the building. I know it's harder to get in that building, but that room is big. And if we had enough, we have enough space for us to spread out to be somewhat socially distanced. We don't have an elevators and things like that, so we'd have to be careful how we did it, but we do have a room large.
Yeah, that's room 202.
Right. So I guess, following on Robin's question about the travel quarantine, inter-island quarantine being lifted, Keith, have you heard anything from the state? Because I know when the COVID orders were first going out, the state essentially suspended the inter-island travel. Are you just spending for inter-island travel, right? So is spending, even if we could hold our July meeting in person, because the quarantine's lifted, is the state allowed, or is OEQC allowed to purchase tickets for members to come in person?
I mean, you'll be in the new fiscal year by then, but you're gonna have to get ticketing prior to that. Maybe Jen can answer that question about the ticket purchasing.
Okay.
Or Les, can you answer that question about the
Sorry, I'm a fiscal moron.
Jen?
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry, I was in the middle.
Question is, you know, if we do have the meeting in person next month, July 7th, and council members would have to get tickets prior to that, we'd probably get the tickets, under this current fiscal year or the next fiscal year?
No, it'll be this fiscal year. But with the budget cuts, I'm not sure if we have funds for
Yeah,
July
that's the
meeting.
question.
Excuse me, we already had tickets purchased for 2 meetings that were canceled. And unless the state has a different program with Hawaiian Air than the rest of the world, that money is sitting in an account to be spent specifically
No, it's not. No, it's not. The refunded the Hawaiian Air refunded the tickets back to us.
Okay,
But right now the budget's on hold, so I don't know what. I gotta take a look at the budget.
so Hawaiian does have a different relationship with the state than it does with all
Yes.
their other flyers.
So, so am I hearing from you folks, it's just a budget thing right now? There's no restriction from the state that councils cannot meet in person?
You know, with the reopening going on in various activities in various counties, I mean, yeah, like Will said, that, you know, if we do meet, you're gonna have to exercise the various social distancing, keep separate, you know, distance for each of the members. And then also the committee meetings too goes under the same kinds of criteria. So it's finding a venue or a different venue than we normally meet. And if that works out in terms of those kinds of criteria.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, for myself personally, I would love to have in-person meetings. I think it's easier for us if we are able to do it. Is that the consensus from the group as well? I'd like to hear people's thoughts because, you know, depending on what it is, if we have to do July via Zoom, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, the quicker we can get back to normal would be wonderful, of course.
Well, now, this is Ron, and I've been talking about getting Alan Lee from Department of Design and Construction to present on lighting issues, because as we talked about in the committee, he is really light years, sorry the pun, ahead of all the other agencies in the various aspects of this, environmental, fiscal, technological, and he's got things that, you know, we kind of need to see, I hesitate to say touch, but to get next to the fixtures that he wants us to look at and to talk about. We can do it over Zoom, but it'd just be so much better. I don't want to schedule it until we can get back together in person, unless, you know, this is just the way of the future. So that's the kind of stuff that's very difficult to do remotely, especially with all the technological glitches that we run into with these meetings.
You know, Ron, can I interject? This is Bill Cooper. That is a good point because proclamation number 8, which is the current one, doesn't expire until June 30th. And in Exhibit H, they have a whole waiver of the requirements under Chapter 92 for meetings, and it allows these types of meetings. And so it's unknown what the governor is going to do as far as the next proclamation. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a wholesale just opening everything up, or if it's going to be kind of a gradual opening up through his proclamation. So, you know, so scheduling stuff in advance without knowing what's going to happen after June 30th is kind of problematic anyway.
Thank you.
And Keith did, this is Kathy Ho. In the past, the governor has put a moratorium on travel for state employees. have you heard whether that's still in place for us under this pandemic, or are we able to travel? And it's a fiscal moratorium, really.
From what I understand, that's still in effect. Although if we traveled under certain conditions, for example, like for emergency purposes or, essential work that needs to be done, we could travel and not be subject to the quarantine requirements. But as far as any other regular travel, like Bill said, it kind of remains to be seen.
Right, because in the past,
we will also be subject to the screenings like I told you about. And just FYI for everybody, the way the procedures are being worked on, at least from what I heard, it could change. But I think especially if you don't fill out that form beforehand online, you're asked to report to the airport now 3 hours in advance, maybe even longer. And before you get to the TSA check, there will be a line to do the health screen or the travel screen. And besides the temperature, if your temperature is above 100.4, you'll be asked to step out of the line and asked if you want to take the swab test. And you may, if you have other symptoms like coughing, sore throat, running nose, they may take you to a kiosk at the various airports that you fly from. And they'll do a screening there, and then the only thing that they can hold you on possibly is the temperature, but all the rest, they cannot prevent you from boarding the plane. So don't get sick before the meeting. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and it's not just that. For me, as Kupuna with an 80-year-old husband, it's exposure and even being asymptomatic, bringing it back to him. So
That's right.
I know the procedures that I need to go through to protect myself and to protect him, but the more limited my actions, the easier those procedures are, because they're fairly extensive. My background is in nursing, and I know how to do it, but just being on the plane is a risk for us as well. Yeah, no matter what they're doing, being in a group of 10 people is a risk as well. But that's not going to get better. In my opinion, right now is probably the safest we're going to be for a while. We're going to get a whole lot unsafe in the next 60, 90 days. So there's that. For me, for travel at this point, I probably would decline.
And that brings up another good point, is that for council members who don't want to take the risks involved with travel, especially on an airline, the council has to decide whether, I think they would have to still provide the ability to Zoom, or even for the public as well.
Yeah, and this is a good discussion right now to get a temperature read from people on what do you folks prefer, right? So if I can just kind of hear from everybody else, because if the preference is to try for an in-person meeting in July, we will, but Bill makes a good point. We'll still have to try to figure out some kind of a Zoom capability, or, if people are still wary of traveling, maybe we do July via Zoom and just continue as we have been. But yeah, if I can hear from the others on the call too, just to get the temperature reading from everyone.
Well, I rarely say this, but I totally agree with Maka'ala.
Mark this day on somebody's calendar.
We're having some really good conversations over here on this island because we've been the only island COVID-free. Now we know that that's going to change.
Yep.
And it's been, there's a number of people here who are actually advocating that we not open up this island, that we ask the mayor to make an exemption. I don't know where that's going, but all of that is to say that I probably would prefer to do Zoom at least in July until we get a little bit more clarity here. It's just safer.
Thank you, Robin.
This is Mary. I understand the safety concerns. There's also I don't have any objection to doing this on Zoom for the rest of forever. Whatever the group votes for, but there's a great deal to be said for when something traumatic such as the pandemic occurs and the recovery of it be handled with as much thought as going into it was, and maybe more. And we need to get back to work. We're going to reopen the economy. We're going to reopen our offices. It needs to be done in a thoughtful manner. I just spent 2 hours this morning with a group deciding how to put the 2.5 employees back to work. Which computers to take out of their kitchens and when and all of that. That all needs to be done in a thoughtful manner. And so with the fiscal year being upon us and there's just a lot of uncertainty, I think we just leave Zoom as Zoom and but know that we have to go back to the real world. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Tetsi, Mike, Mahina, Roy.
Oh, this is Roy. I'm okay either way. Zoom is fine.
Thanks, Roy.
I don't know where Tessie went.
Okay. Mike?
Oh, she just got back. I just let her back into the room.
Okay.
Mike's picture is there, but he's not in his chair.
Okay.
Here.
Mahina?
Up, we got here from a distance. Get back in your
Sleeping on the couch.
Get Cecile.
Hey, Mike, do you have a preference for, depending on what we're going to do we're just trying to figure out if we have the opportunity for in-person meeting in July, or is your preference to do Zoom for another month and then figure it out from there?
Be on the safe side, I'd rather do it another month.
Okay, thank you.
Tessie, unmute yourself and answer, please.
Yeah, I got disconnected somehow. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Would you prefer an in-person meeting fairly soon, or would you prefer to stay on Zoom for a while?
I prefer in person.
Ever the brave warrior.
I have my mask. I have it on 24/7.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Today we have the colorful mask.
Oh yeah. We have quite a collection around here. All of our children suddenly became seamstresses.
Okay, I think, is Mahina the only person we haven't heard from yet?
Yeah, oh, sorry.
We haven't heard
Go ahead.
I'm on island, so I would be fine either way. The Zoom meetings are actually good, and I would hate for you folks to come here and then take anything back to your communities,
Yeah, because we know where that nasty bug lives.
Not on my island.
Not on my island.
Not on my island. We haven't heard from
yeah.
Okay.
Ron Terry. Speak up.
It's hear from Ron. He said he wanted, or yeah, I guess Ron, you said eventually you do want to have in person, but for July, Zoom okay? I think that's where we're basically leaning.
Yeah, that's fine. I do think in-person meetings are better all around, and I want to do it as soon as possible, maybe not July. I understand other people's concerns, but I feel, we are going to start traveling around. I'm going to begin traveling, and I'm confident that it can be done safely. If the council feels it can't do it, I think we can work under these circumstances, but it's not going to be as good. I'll go with whatever you guys say, but I think we should start meeting in person when we can.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. And then I want to, Keith, and I know Keith and Kathy are both here as well, so assume either is okay for you, but do you also have a preference for in-person versus Zoom?
I think in the long run, it's good to have it in person, but in the immediate meeting or so, it's probably on the safe side, just stay with the Zoom. Just the fact that we're opening up inter-island travel in a couple of weeks, and things need to kind of settle down a little bit. So
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you. Kathy, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, folks, thank you very much, everybody, for sharing your mana'o. So yeah, we'll just proceed with Zoom for July. And then, you know, one day, just cross our fingers, we can all meet in person again.
Can I ask you, while we're here, a related question? I guess it's to you, Mary, or Keith. You said that the Hawaiian Now is going to have a form, a different form than the one that you usually fill out when you come back from the mainland. You said the form is available online. Is that the new form with whatever new questions, or is that the old tourist form?
You know, to be honest, I think we're still working on it. I have not seen the new form. It's going to be available electronically and in paper form. The electronic one is a little bit less onerous because if you look at the paper form, from what I told, it's a pretty lengthy form where there's a lot of yes, no kind of question. If you answer yes, then you're going to answer sub questions under that question. So
okay.
I
The
think
new form is not available yet, electronically.
Not yet, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. I just wanted to check on that. Okay.
Keith, they showed a form on the news this morning. They were at the airport and they were talking about the form that they're currently using, and they had another form in their hand and they were saying, explaining the difference, much like you just did, but maybe that's really not the final one.
No,
This is not needing to be used today.
just the talks internally, they've been looking at trying to simplify the form as much as possible. They realize that if you do have one of those symptoms, those 4 symptoms, that you're going to be asked additional questions anyway. But why, you know, it's trying to achieve maximum throughput with safety, obviously. So you want to be standing in a line like you do in TSA sometimes.
Yeah, right.
It's another screening you're going to be doing. So,
right.
You know, I know there's going to be some adjustments even when this thing rolls out, but it's the new normal.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you.
Just on a personal note, I'll tell you, for my own self, I love to travel and I miss it a lot. But I am encouraged by the progress of a potential vaccine, and I'm beginning to think that when I actually will feel safe to travel and be in large groups will be when we have a vaccine.
All right. Well, we're still, you know, in the public forum session. Is there anything else any questions from members of the public or anything else from council members?
Are you going to send out the information on the rules thing? I mean, I will certainly read them again. Is that going to be a notice from Les or from you, Chair, or what should I be expecting?
Yeah, I will probably send out an email to you folks. Maybe I'll do a doodle poll for, you know, sometime next week that we can, you know, get together and yeah, what works for people. And then I'll, you know, ask Les if he can please set up the Zoom link and all that stuff.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, folks. All right. Well, thank you, folks, again for everything. And yeah, we'll continue to work to complete the annual report, and we'll get the meeting set up for the permitted interaction group. And yeah, if you folks have questions, just, you know, feel free to email Les and he can pass them on to me, if anything. And everybody stay safe and take care.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Mahalo. Good to see everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Aloha.
Bye.
Bye.
Where's the
How do I leave this thing?
button?